You are tuned in to the DNVR Rockies Podcast, brought to you by Bet365. Use code DNVR365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary with Bet365. What's up, everyone? Happy Wednesday. It is a beautiful day here in the state of Colorado. I was checking the weather. I heard one of my favorite meteorologists, Chris Bianchi, who works for 9 News, he was tweeting yesterday saying that it's supposed to be gorgeous weather, like mid-July type weather all through the week to finish out this homestand for the Rockies. So Rockies fans are in for a treat for their final few home games of the year. And not just from a weather standpoint, but we have some special stuff going on at Coors Field. Charlie Blackmon on Monday announcing his retirement. And yesterday was the first time that we as a fan base got to kind of revel in that retirement announcement in person with Charlie Blackmon. We were there. I was there at the stadium. I know a lot of fans were there at Coors Field as well. About a 25,000 population showing up to attendance population showing up to Coors Field yesterday, which is pretty good for this late in the season, given that the Rockies are playing meaningless baseball. And it's also, school year and people are back at work. Like, it's just not, unless Rockies are playing meaningful baseball, like, people just don't show up as much this time of year. So to have 25,000 people out there, you guys wanted to celebrate this Charlie Blackmon retirement announcement. The Rockies are going to be celebrating him all week long going into Sunday, where he has his final game in a Rockies uniform. And it was an emotional day yesterday. So that's what this show is going to be all about today, is kind of recapping everything that I was able to gather from the content perspective from yesterday. Some of it was going to be up on Twitter. If you follow us on at DNVR_Rockies on Twitter, or myself at CJJ Saez, you'll see some of that. But this show, I wanted to go a little deeper than that. And I talked to some of the players, talked to Charlie, talked to Nolan Arenado, talked to Ryan McMahon, Bud Black, Kyle Freeland, and just got some other sound bites that I wanted to share with you guys today. And so we're gonna have this moment here on the show where we just get to kind of enjoy the player that Charlie Blackmon was for 14 seasons for the Rockies. There's a lot of crazy memories that we have as a fan base. I know his friends and family, Charlie Blackmon's friends and family, they were getting to experience all of that kind of coming to life in that yesterday's festivities. So what a moment for Rockies fans. But I want to dive right into it by talking about some of the things that Charlie Blackmon mentioned in his press conference, because he did meet with the media before the game yesterday, and he met with us at 2:00 in the afternoon before the game, got going against the Cardinals. And there was a handful of different types of questions about what's he going to do with the beard, what is his routine going to look like after he retires, what are his plans for the summer, all of these different types of things. But the first question was asked by Patrick Saunders, and before I get into that first question, I want to say that this was something that was unique that I noticed, and I haven't seen a lot of major players retire like Charlie Blackmon, but Patrick Saunders with the Denver Post kicked off the questions in the press conference, and he kicked it off by not really asking a question initially, but by starting off with a compliment and complimenting Charlie Blackmon and thanking Charlie Blackmon for being the person that he was. And you don't see that relationship very often between the media and a player, especially I think in baseball, where there's so much relationship, so much consistency going on between the two that, there's ups and downs of a season, and players tend to have, challenging relationships with the media sometimes. And we've seen that in all different sports. We see that with Coach Prime, in Boulder with the media, and there's plenty of other examples. We know, Sean Payton has had plenty of his moments with the media, but Charlie Blackmon seems to be the guy that has been consistently a positive light for the media. And Patrick Saunders started it off by thanking Charlie for just his relationship and his incredible stories and his willingness to engage with not only the media, but with the fans. And I think that's something that goes unnoticed sometimes, is that I think a lot of players don't realize, initially at least, that the media, yes, can paint a team or paint a player in a negative light, but we're also the conduit in which the player can communicate and engage with the fans. And a player's number one job is to be there for the fans. Even if you're not having to relate to the fans or connect with the fans directly, you make a living off of this fan base, right? And it's why fans are so passionate and take things so personally when you see stuff going on like Chris Bryant, or when Nolan Arenado left, or Troy Tulowitzki and DJ LeMahieu, like all of these guys that have had kind of a troubled relationship with fans throughout their time as a Rockies in the Rockies franchise. There's so much weight on that because the relationship with the fans is so important to the success of a franchise, I think, in my opinion. And Charlie Blackmon did such a good job of connecting with fans through the media. And so it was cool to see Patrick Saunders kind of recognize him, and he kind of started a chain of all of the different reporters who were asking questions, starting by thanking Charlie for his relationship with us. And so that was really cool. But Patrick Saunders' first question was, how difficult was this to retire? Because this is it's not something that I think anyone was really expecting, in the sense that we all knew that Charlie could play for a couple more years if he wanted to. Now, the writing was on the wall. Maybe, we were all aware that there was a chance that he was going to retire, but we knew that he could play for a couple more years, as he proved to us last night by hitting a triple and a double in the game against the Cardinals. But so Patrick Saunders asked him, how difficult was it for you to make this decision to retire? And this is what Charlie Blackmon had to say to that.
Very difficult, and I think I don't really grasp the gravity of it just yet. I think this last week will reveal a lot about how I feel about stepping away from the game. It's really, and for most of these guys in the room, to this point, is pretty much all I've known. It's all I've known. I feel like I've never really worked a day in my life, but I do work really hard at the same time. So it's going to be very different on the other side. I know that, but at the same time, I think it's the right decision. I think the game is being played at such a high level. It really demands a certain amount of time, physical ability, health, strength. I think there's just a point at which I don't think I'm going to be able to continue to play, right? Like, that's the fact of life. It's going to happen. So I think I'm making the right decision, and that makes things a little bit easier in the sense that I don't have to wonder if this is right or wrong, but at the same time, it's definitely going to be a difficult, stepping away.
That was pretty cool seeing Charlie up there with his kids. But I wanted to highlight something that he said when he was saying, the game is being played at such a high level now that it's hard to keep up with that. And that's echoing a similar statement that was made by other Rockies legends on their decisions to retire. Because just about a month ago in August, we heard Todd Helton, or at least I heard Todd Helton, when he was doing his press conference for his Hall of Fame ceremony, and he was talking about what led him and what led to his decision to retire. And he used the example of when he first faced Aroldis Chapman and saw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball heading towards his head. It made him contemplate, maybe this is time to retire for me. Maybe it's time to hang up my cleats and move forward. Charlie Blackmon, I think, although he's at a different point in his career where I think he could play for another year or two, starting to realize that this is something that is gonna kind of catch up on me really quick. And it is something that he said, and I don't have this clip in there, but it's something that he did say in another segment of that press conference, where he said, a lot of guys wait until the decision is made for them. And it's something that creeps up on guys really quickly in baseball. We've seen it happen so many different times. One year, you've got a guy who's playing baseball as a veteran, and the next year, like all of a sudden they just disappear. You're like, what happened to that guy? And you're like, oh yeah, he just was like randomly DFA'd, and he was like 0 for 26, and the team just let him go, and that was how he retired. And it just they just disappear into the wind. It feels like Charlie Blackmon made an intentional decision to retire. And I think that's an important thing to remember in this, is that he wanted to go out on his own terms. And it's not like he didn't have an incredible career. He played 14 seasons. He's 38 years old. But to his point, he could have played a couple more years. He wanted to retire on his own goodwill. And he knew about this, going into the season. He even said at one point, that he knew about it going into spring training, that this was probably the last time he'd ever play at Salt River Flats Stadium, So kind of crazy to think about, that process for him. So a very typical follow-up question to that is, okay, Charlie, well, what's next? And Thomas Harding, MLB writer, MLB.com writer, asked that question. What's next for you, Charlie? And what are you looking to do, as a hobby and maybe even as a retirement career? And this is what Charlie had to say about that.
I don't think I'm looking for a 9-to-5, Thomas. I'm probably going to take some time and get away from the grind. I think I am looking forward to having free time, spending more time with my family, doing some dad stuff. But at the same time, I don't think you can just take someone who's playing at this level, who's reached the highest level in any profession, and then just turn the competitive spigot off. I don't think it works like that. I think it's kind of your gift and your curse. So I do wonder what I'll choose to apply myself to next. I have this, I don't know if it's a problem, but I don't like to dabble in anything. I like to be very, very good at it. And that's so far it's been baseball, or it's been, there's a few hobbies where I've tried to make it way harder than it should, like fishing and stuff like that. And, so I do think I'll probably, do something else that I choose to do that's recreational, but then probably turn it into something where I try to work.
That's another comparison you got to make between him and Todd Helton. Todd Helton saying the same thing, that it's so hard when you're dedicated to being the best in your entire industry, an industry that is so hard to be good at in the first place, let alone to be the best of the best, and then to just turn that off and say, I'm just going to go relax. That's not a thing for guys like Charlie. And Charlie is so routine oriented. We'll hear from Nolan Arenado here in just a few minutes about his routines and his consistency there. But I would imagine Charlie is going to have a hard time turning it off. And this is something that I don't have clipped out for us, but Charlie did talk about, wanting to stay involved. He's already had conversations with the Rockies about staying involved within the Rockies organization. And that's something that he is going to do. Now, I don't think, and he said it, I don't think it's going to be something in a full-time capacity. You're not going to see him being the hitting coach for the Rockies or anything like that, at least not, to something that he's expecting to do. But I think it's something that you could see him doing similar stuff to Todd Helton, where he's working with some of these minor league guys and just helping teach them, and help them fix and correct some of the mistakes that he made when he was playing. And so I think he is going to stay around the baseball game, maybe even a little bit more than Todd Helton has, because I do think there's a deeper passion of just where the game is at right now than I think Todd Helton seemed a little bitter about where the game of baseball is at right now. And he's kind of old-fashioned, and so he has a hard time kind of adapting to the changes. Charlie Blackmon doesn't seem to me like that kind of guy. He's adapted really well to the changes of baseball. But it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses in his career and how he stays involved with the Rockies. He did confirm that he will be staying involved with the Rockies, though. But I did think it was interesting as well. You always think about the dynamic of players when you're looking at guys that have not had a summer for 14 plus years. I mean, when you're a baseball player, you do not get any days off. I talked about that yesterday with, CJ Abrams getting sent down because he was out partying at a casino, until 8 in the morning. that's obviously a really negative example, but like these guys don't have off time. They don't have breaks during the summer. So you pretty much say for over a decade, almost 2 decades, I am not going to have a summer vacation ever. And he talked about that when asked about, what is it going to be like to spend your time off in the summers, to have summers off. And this is what Charlie had to say about that.
It is weird to just sit on a bus or in a hotel and look around and see all your normal friends go to the beach or have a vacation or do summertime activities. So I think there are some things that we have decided that we want to do. I know we're going to the Kentucky Derby next year, like stuff like that. Instead of like watching it, and during BP, with your guys, we're going to get out and we're going to do some stuff. We like to travel. We like going to the beach. We like swimming. We were going to do some summertime stuff like that for sure.
He didn't say it in that, but he's also going to fish a lot. He mentioned fishing a couple times, but I think that's a pretty beautiful summer thing to do. And Charlie Blackmon's going to be spending a lot of time out on the rivers. I am sure of it. Here in just a moment, though, we did hear from one of his former teammates, Nolan, who showed up in a really special way for Charlie and had some really cool things to say about Charlie Blackmon. So that's going to come up here in just a few moments after the break. But before we get into that, we got to give a shout out to our friends over at Coors Light, because Coors Light is truly the most refreshing beer on the market. I was in Gunnison over the weekend, and I was at my alma mater, Western Colorado University, watching the 77th Colorado Classic between Western and Adams State, and for football. And I was sitting up in the press box, just hanging out, talking to some former older alumni and some former players and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, someone comes waltzing in, and they just drop off a Coors Light can in front of all of us. And it was like, this blessing from heaven saying, oh, there we go. A little Coors Light treat for me on this afternoon. So that was really nice. I know. The Coors Light stork coming and bringing us Coors Light beer in the press box. But I was excited, not just for the fact that we had some refreshments up in the booth, but also because Coors Light is the greatest light beer around. And it just goes synonymous with baseball, football, any live sporting event, for me at least. I mean, from the moment I was old enough to be getting Coors Lights at sporting events, that is all I've been able and really wanted to enjoy. And so Coors Light truly is the best in the business when it comes to a good pairing between live sports and cold, refreshing beer. So embrace that chill mindset whenever you're out enjoying yourself, and choose to chill with a cold, refreshing Coors Light. You can get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instant Cart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. So please celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, right in our backyard here in Golden, Colorado. Also got to share some love with our friends over at Bet365, because at Bet365, we do not do ordinary. They've got some incredible stuff going on at Bet365. And when you sign up using code DNVR365, you get a couple cool offers. But one of the really cool things that I wanted to highlight here, especially with the last few weeks, almost a month left of baseball season, Bet365 has this really cool offer called the MLB Early Payout Offer, where you're a winner if your team goes up by 5 runs or more. You get an instant payout once you hit that 5-run or more lead. Parlay and same game parlay selections will be marked as winners. You can also check out, they have over 10,000 different boosts every month. They're boosting specific markets, your winnings, parlays. So you can keep an eye out for all of our custom boosts at DNVR. We've got a lot of different really cool features. So just get that app, get the Bet365 app, use code DNVR365 when you sign up, check out our boosts, and see why it is never ordinary with Bet365. You must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, before we get into the Nolan Arenado stuff here, I got to share one more clip with you, because Charlie Blackmon was asked what it's like to be a leader. And I thought this was his most powerful thing he said throughout his entire press conference, as he was talking about what it means for him to be a leader. And it's about a minute of him talking about his mindset as a leader. And I think this goes beyond just baseball. And I always love hearing guys like Charlie talk about being a leader, because I think he started out, and he talked about it, a little bit, but he started out as kind of a quiet clubhouse guy, and Ryan McMahon said this later in the show, which we'll show you. He didn't really talk to Charlie for the first couple of years he was on the team, just because, Charlie was just kind of a quiet, serious guy. But over time, he learned how to become a leader. And this quote and this speech from Charlie on what his process was of becoming a good leader really is hit home with me. And I think this is really important for you guys to hear. So check out what Charlie said in regards to his method of leadership in the clubhouse.
You can't be a leader unless you start thinking outside of yourself, which is really hard unless you've been successful. It's really hard as a young player without a track record to spend time trying to elevate the guys around you when you yourself have glaring weaknesses. That doesn't mean I've got it all figured out. I think it just means that some of my weaknesses, I can't figure them out anymore, so I'm going to start, trying to help other guys. And so I think that's, looking at yourself as part of a whole and everybody aligned with the same goals. I think realizing that my problems are probably going to be the problems of someone else. And I've had lots and lots of failures and struggles in my career, and trying to recognize that in someone else's life or career or swing or whatever it is, and then maybe help them get over it quicker than I did is kind of my chosen leadership method. But yeah, ultimately, you probably want to think about other people and try to do the right thing. Two pretty good guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool hearing him talk about, how challenging it can be to be a leader when you yourself have issues, you yourself have weaknesses. I think that's one of the hardest things in life. You get into a new job or a new career or a new profession, or even a new relationship or something, anything like that. And you're brand new. You haven't built this foundation and this consistency of success yet to tip your cap onto, or to lean your hat on. And you still have to be able to find ways to elevate people around you. And Charlie Blackmon kind of was the epitome of that, where he, even before he was Charlie Blackmon in his prime, he was still a leader in the clubhouse. He was still a consistent workhorse that led people to elevate their game to the best of their ability. And it showed 2017, 2018, bringing this Colorado Rockies franchise to a postseason appearance two years in a row. And that's exactly what it was all about. And he had a lot of great memories of his time, in those couple years in that postseason run. And another guy who had some really cool memories of that postseason run was his former teammate, Nolan Arenado, who all of a sudden during the press conference, or right before the press conference started, we saw all the Rockies players filing into the press room to watch Charlie Blackmon speak. And then all of a sudden there starts to be like a little bit of a buzz going around the room. I turn around and there was a bright red hat standing in the back, and Nolan Arenado had stopped by. He had come from the visiting clubhouse to hang out and see Charlie Blackmon give his farewell speech, and so we caught up with Nolan after that was done and before the game started, and asked Nolan a couple questions. And so I asked him, Nolan, what was his favorite memories, because he was kind of reminiscing on some stuff and saying that, he has a lot of good memories. So I was asking Nolan, what was your favorite memories with Charlie, and the things you think back on the most when you think of, when you think of Charlie Blackmon and his time with the Rockies. And this is what Nolan had to say about that.
Obviously 17, 18, back-to-back playoffs, that was fun. And then just the minor leagues, and he was always a couple steps ahead of me. But, I was 18 when I first met him, and, he was like one of the top prospects in the organization, and just we kind of came up I know he came up a couple years before me, but it was always kind of like me, him, and DJ were coming, and that was kind of our core, and it was pretty cool to see us all be in the same lineup, I remember in AAA our lineup went Charlie, DJ, me, and then big leagues at one point it went Charlie, DJ, me. So it was kind of cool to see that come into fruition like that.
What a lineup that was. That's the good old days right there. Charlie, Nolan, and Charlie, DJ, and then Nolan. That was some prime Rockies success right there. That's I put out an article yesterday and titled it "End of an Era." You can find that on the DNVR.com. But I titled it "End of an Era," and that is truly what it feels like. End of an era, because now those three main players, you could throw Trevor Story in there as well. no longer with the Rockies after this season. Charlie Blackmon being the last of that core group. So an end of an era. Also something that I think gets lost on some people sometimes is that Charlie Blackmon and Nolan Arenado have played with each other since they were 18 years old. These are guys that have grown up together. Charlie Blackmon didn't even know his wife back then. He has kids now. Nolan Arenado has a kid now. Like these are guys that have, even though they've gone their separate ways, and Nolan Arenado has, chosen to leave the Rockies fan base, much to the chagrin of most of us here. These are guys that still have a deep history together. And so it was cool, all grievances aside, it was cool to see Nolan Arenado back and supporting his good friend in Charlie Blackmon. I do think there was a bit of a contentious moment in the press conference where we all knew Nolan Arenado was in the back of the room. And I don't remember who it was. One of the reporters, though, asked Nolan, hey, Nolan, or not Nolan, Charlie said, hey, Charlie, talk to us a little bit about, why it's so important for you to stay with one team when, a lot of other guys think it's more important to jump ship and go to other places. And everyone in the room was like, oh, geez, like that was very clearly hinting towards Nolan Arenado, who was sitting in the back there. But besides that, there was all love to Nolan because, he was talking about his good buddy, Charlie Blackmon. So, that was cool. But Nolan also, said that him and Charlie were also really different as players. Nolan was more kind of go with the flow, just kind of hang out, take it one day at a time. Whereas Charlie was very routine oriented. And he said that kind of caused them to butt heads a lot. But he said that almost made them better as teammates. And so Nolan did talk about that and how they kind of butted heads a lot in their time. And this is what he had to say about him and Charlie's relationship when they were on the Rockies together.
He was so stubborn. That's what made him so good, is that he's so stubborn in his ways. And if you try to get him out of his ways, it was just like a hard argument. Like, don't come near me, don't talk to me. You're going to try to get me away from what I do. But that's what made him Charlie, and we always loved him.
What did you guys argue about? Besides getting him out of his ways?
It could be anything, music. Like, hey, I think you should try a lighter bat. And he'd be like, don't tell me what to do. Just anything. This is Charlie just telling us, like, just don't tell me what to do, or like how to round the bag. Like any discussion that had to do with anything that would get him out of his like normal routine, and would just be like, don't tell me what to do. Get away from me. And so that's just kind of how it went.
Nolan, you touched on how.
That's funny. Nolan, yeah, that I can see that also too. I mean, I've had a couple conversations, not as many as I would have liked to, but a couple conversations with Charlie. And, he can be a guy that's pretty laid back, but when he's in his routine, when he's in his rhythm, like, don't mess with Charlie. Like, he's locked in. He's not rude or anything. He's locked in. He's there to work. And Bud Black even said it, when he was talking before the game, he even said, he's like, even today, after the day after he announces his retirement, the Rockies are eliminated. They're not playing for anything. Charlie Blackmon has nothing to prove. He could go 0 for 17 of his last games, and no one would bat an eye. And he's still out there preparing and getting ready as if he is going to be playing another 5 years in a Rockies uniform. Super cool to see that mentality. I did talk to Bud Black about his relationship with Charlie Blackmon because they played together, or played with each other, manager and player, for 8 years. And Bud Black came onto the scene when Charlie Blackmon was finding his stride. And there was a great relationship that they had. And I'm going to play some of those clips here in just a moment. But before we get into that, we got to give some love to our friends over at Game Time, because there has never been a better time to be involved in the live event world, but especially the sporting world, than right now. And with Game Time, it makes it easier to get tickets cheaper, faster, and more efficiently than ever before. Game Time has so many great features, but one of the favorite features that I personally enjoy is Game Time Picks. Game Time Picks filters out all of the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets when really all you're trying to find is one good, perfect ticket that's going to get you right where you want to be. And the way that Game Time Picks does that is by giving you, these panoramic views from your seats. You can click on it. You can see 360 views, so you can see where your seat is actually going to be located. It's going to give you, the options on pricing, so you can see what the lowest price guarantee is going to be. They cover your tickets. Your purchase is going to be covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. It really is a one-of-a-kind deal that you get whenever you use Game Time. And also the cool thing is, the tickets and the prices actually go down as you get closer to game time. So you could wait 10 minutes until game time and you can get the lowest possible price on a ticket with the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Game Time app. Download that app, create an account, and use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create an account, redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Well, also, speaking of what time is it? Well, maybe it's time for you to replace your floors. Is the summer wearing on your floors a little bit at home? I know it is for me. The dogs have been tracking in mud all year long, all summer long. And now winter's right around the corner. Might be time for you to replace your floors. And if you're going to be replacing your floors, you've got to get involved with our friends over at Empire Today. They are truly the best when it comes to getting you set up with quality new flooring. And there is really no one else that does it better than Empire Flooring. They did our floors here in the building here at DNVR, and this is a place where we destroy our floors because of all the equipment that we have. We are constantly just like moving sets around. I know, Tiff, it sounds like a bulldozer in here.
We're just like dragging stuff across the floor constantly because we are too lazy to pick stuff up.
Or put wheels on anything.
Yeah,
no, it's sharp edges all around.
And you can't tell.
No. I mean, Empire Today, they got us the perfect floors. They worked with us. They have this really cool virtual floor designer that's a great way for you to see what your new floors are going to look like in any space that you're going to be putting your floors in. You just take a picture and you can instantly see, what your floor is going to look like in that specific space. So, really, it's just an all-around great experience working with Empire Today. So schedule a free in-home estimate. All listeners of this show can receive a $350 discount when they use the promo code DNVR. Terms and conditions and restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DNVR for details. All right, we're talking about Bud Black because Bud Black kind of jumped right onto the scene with the Rockies right in the middle of that historic run to the playoffs, 2017, 2018. And that was when Charlie Blackmon was hitting his stride. 2017 was the greatest year, I would argue, of any leadoff hitter in the history of baseball. And Charlie Blackmon was that guy. And he, I think, kind of got the ball rolling on Bud Black's tenure here in Colorado. Now the winningest head coach in Rockies franchise history. And so we talked to Bud Black before the game yesterday and asked him what his thoughts were on Charlie and just the relationship that they have built over the years. And this is what Bud had to say about him and Charlie's relationship.
I mean, Charlie will be one of my favorite players always. I mean, he's great in just in so many ways. But, he's, it's just as an athlete, as a professional baseball player, I admire him. I mean, I do. I mean, just because I know, what he's done to become the player that he's become. Even going back to, amateur baseball. What he did in those years after high school to junior college to collegiate baseball, where some transformations happen from pitcher to hitter, and all the work that he's put in and continues to put in even today. The work that he's putting in today to play today's game, it's been remarkably consistent and steady, and just he's never wavered from what he felt he had to do, and really what he wanted to do. That's the thing. He wants to work. He wants to do this, and I just admire players like that.
That's high praise from Bud Black, who he can be a tough manager at times. He can be hard on guys, and he did say something else. He said, in his entire time coaching with Charlie Blackmon, he never had to worry once about Charlie. He's like, Charlie took care of himself every single day. He's like, I never had to think about him. And that, as a manager, I mean, that makes your job so much easier. You never have to think like, he's kind of in a slump. Do I have to move things around? Like, as a pitcher, he left some fastballs up. I got to talk to him and get his fastballs down or whatever. Stuff you see a lot from young guys. He never had to do that with Charlie. Him and Charlie's relationship was pretty close. He also said at the end of that quote, he was saying, everything Charlie Blackmon said he was going to do, he did. And that's something that I think is hard to accomplish in a long MLB career. Everyone says they're going to do things. You say, I'm going to, play this many years, or I'm going to, hit this many home runs, or I'm going to do these, whatever. I'm going to have success here. And some players accomplish some of those goals. Some players don't. But Charlie Blackmon set a goal for himself, before he started and accomplished those goals, set goals for himself and accomplished those goals. And he had the career that he wanted, and he can't control all the things around him. I mean, people are going to say, sucks. He played on the Rockies. He never got to win a championship, whatever. But he accomplished the things that he wanted to do. And he talked about the consistency too, and wanting to stay on one team and control his own destiny with his team. The Rockies fans love Charlie Blackmon, and Charlie Blackmon loves Rockies fans. And that's a relationship that he didn't want to push aside just for the idea of possibly winning a championship. Look at Nolan Arenado. Nolan Arenado pushed his way out of Colorado because he wanted to win a championship, and he hasn't. He has not made it to the postseason since he left Colorado. He has had better success in Colorado than he has in St. Louis. And that's the way the game goes, and Nolan said that, he's like, look, like at the time, you make the decision that you make, with good reasons. And the only thing you can do is look forward. You can't look back. Charlie Blackmon made intentional decisions to be the player that he wanted to be every single day. And it paid off, and it showed throughout his time with the Rockies. And his relationship with Bud Black is another example of that. And so Charlie did share his own thoughts on his relationship with Bud Black, and he was asked about that during his press conference about him and Bud Black's time together. And this is what he had to say about his relationship to Bud Black.
The Bud Black era has really helped me grow as a person and as a player. And I remember thinking in the first... It's weird that Bud Black is right here. But I remember thinking early on, I guess it was the first year, that we made some decisions in the bullpen, and I was like, that's like, these are good. Like, we're making good decisions, this is what I would do, I felt like, Bud has a lot of experience he brought to the Rockies, and he has a really incredible demeanor. And I think it serves our group well with ups and downs. And I think it helps us play the game without worrying, without holding back. I think it lets guys like bloom as players. I think it's a really good dynamic. I think it's been really helpful for me.
Yeah, so just that history between those guys. Like I said, 8 years, and Charlie Blackmon starting off, or Bud Black, I should say, starting off his career with the Rockies, kind of right in the peak of Charlie's career, and just cool to see that relationship develop over the years. And no matter what you feel about Bud Black, whether you like him, don't like him, think he's going to be the Rockies manager next year, think he's not, I actually think things are starting to lean towards he is going to be the Rockies manager next year. Just putting that out there. The vibes around the front office from when I've spent time in the clubhouse around Dick Monfort and Bill Schmidt, and they haven't come out and said it, but the vibes feel very much like things are headed in the right direction. So Bud Black is going to stay with this team until the expectations are no longer being met. But no matter what your feelings are on Bud Black, he's built good relationships with his players. And I don't think I've heard a single player who's played for Bud Black come out and say, we didn't like playing for this guy, or we didn't like, what he did or how he ran this team. And Charlie Blackmon to have those things to say about Bud, pretty cool. And also, you know, we have to remember, like, just the other day, Bud Black became the winningest coach in Rockies franchise history. And after he got the beer and foam, you know, dunking, the celebratory beer and foam shower after the game, who was it that he said did that? It was Charlie Blackmon. Charlie Blackmon was the guy who led that beer and shower foam, shaving foam, you know, celebration in the locker room after that when Bud Black walked out and he was covered in foam to do his press conference. Charlie Blackmon was the guy who did that to him. You know, and that shows you the relationship that Charlie had with the guys in the clubhouse. And one of those guys that Charlie's had another relationship with for years now. You know, we're looking at only a couple guys who are left on this team that have known Charlie pretty much almost his entire career, or at least the majority of his career. Kyle Freeland. Kyle Freeland was, you know, one of those core guys from that 2017-2018 Rockies roster, and he's had a lot of experiences with Charlie Blackmon, and so we were all waiting for Kyle, you know, before the game as well to talk to him, and you know, he just had so many good things to say about Charlie, and so we asked him, you know, what it was like just when he heard the news, and you know, how he processed hearing that Charlie Blackmon was moving on, and this is what Kyle had to say.
Yeah, you know, obviously, you know, Charlie played his hand close to his chest on this one, which, you know, he has every right to do so with the kind of career that he had. But he pulled me aside in LA, so I want to, you know, talk to you about something. And we went to the weight room where Nolan was, and he basically told me, said, "Hey man, this is gonna be it for me. I want to say thank you for everything. I had a great time spending 8 years with you." I told him, you know, the exact same thing. You know, loved watching you play. Do your thing day in, day out. Never seen someone work so hard at a craft in my life. I think we should all strive to be like Charlie in that way. But I couldn't be happier to share a field with Charlie Blackmon and over the past 8 years, and be able to say, you know, Charlie Blackmon is, you know, truly to the core of Colorado Rockies baseball.
What do you think?
Charlie, and to just see, you know, like everything kind of unfold the way that it has throughout their relationship together. And it also goes to show like the type of person that Charlie was behind the scenes, because we don't obviously see a lot of this kind of stuff. And Ryan McMahon, who we'll hear from in just a second, he alluded to this in his quotes, you know, but we as the media don't usually see Charlie off the field or away from the cameras. We get to see what he's like in front of the cameras. And so we asked Kyle, you know, hey, what was he like? What was some of your favorite memories on and off the field? And so these were some of Kyle Freeland's favorite memories with Charlie on and off the field.
On the field, probably trying to make him laugh in the dugout, just trying to think of ways to get him to smile, you know, maybe get him out of his comfort zone a little bit, you know, make him realize, you know, we're playing a game here, we're having some fun, we're winning baseball games, you know, little stuff like that. Off the fields, you know, he was our mic guy on the bus for pretty much my whole career. So being able to listen to him say what he wants to say on the bus, and let's have a good time after a road trip. We're going into a road trip, going into an off day. Gonna miss Charlie on the mic for sure.
Charlie on the mic, he seems like he would be pretty solid. You know, hand Charlie Blackmon the aux cord, and I feel like you'd get some good tunes. Maybe we'll have to, now that he's retired, can we enlist Charlie Blackmon to be our audio guy for the DNVR Rockies takeovers going to the games? Put him on the bus. I think Marissa can retire from that post at this point, because I know she used to be the DNVR Rockies, you know, aux cord for a while. But Charlie Blackmon, it might be his time to shine. Maybe that's how he retires. Maybe he retires into a career as the DNVR Rockies bus takeover leader. That would be that'd be pretty good step up for him, I think from his time with the Rockies. But yeah, it's just cool to hear stories like that. Another one of those players, Ryan McMahon, who spent a lot of time with Charlie, but Ryan is in a different situation because Ryan's now kind of going to be taking over as one of the leaders in this clubhouse. And I asked him that. You'll hear me ask him here in just a second, you know, if there's any added pressure on him to step up now to be a leader. But Ryan McMahon talked a little bit about the shift in leadership now, because you've got all these young guys. Charlie Blackmon was known as kind of the captain of the clubhouse. He's your Gabe Landeskog, if you will, of the Rockies. And so I think with Charlie taking a step down, it was fair to ask some of these other veteran guys like Ryan McMahon, Kyle Freeland, what's it going to be like to get this team to where they need to be in a team full of young guys? I mean, you're a team full of 20-year-olds, really, is what you've got for the Rockies. So guys like Ryan McMahon, Kyle Freeland, even Jake Cave and players like that, Senzatella, like they're going to need to step up and be these leaders in the clubhouse. And Ryan McMahon had some thoughts on, the leadership aspect of things. And so this is what he had to say, first in the reaction to Charlie Blackmon retiring and then to the leadership aspect.
It's tough, man. When stuff starts to go bad, when it hits the fan, he's the guy we turn to. So, we'll have to have some other guys step up, but I'm sure he's just one phone call away for some good advice.
Can you take us back to one of your first interactions with Charlie? Do you remember him?
I don't think I talked to him the first 2 years I was up here, but after that, it was great. No, man, Chuck, he's always been a pro's pro. And like I said, dude, just one of the best guys. It's hard, right? Because, you guys don't get to see everything, but we get to see everything day to day, and he's just the best.
Do you feel like there's added pressure now without Chuck in the locker room for you to step up as a leader?
No, man, we got a bunch of good guys. I think it takes more than one leader for a team to be good. I think you have to have a bunch of guys on the same page. So, it's just going to be getting on the same page. Usually we turn to him for that. So it might take a little bit more work on some of our parts.
So who are going to become the leaders in the clubhouse for the Rockies? Ryan McMahon seems like, he and Kyle Freeland are obviously going to lead the charge just given their longevity with the Rockies, especially Ryan McMahon, just his commitment to Colorado. And not to take that away from Kyle either. Kyle's, from Colorado, but I think, especially during the trade deadline, a guy like Ryan could have been traded, could have been sent somewhere else. He wanted to stay with the Rockies. Like that speaks to the leadership that he has, very similar to Charlie Blackmon wanting to stay here. I think one of the guys that I really want to step up most though for the Rockies, I want to see Brenton Doyle kind of take over. And I know he's young. I know he is early in his career, and he's in that position where Charlie talked about it earlier, where he said, you might not have all of the success or the longevity of success to rest your hat on from a leadership standpoint. But I think Brenton Doyle is a player that so many people look up to in that Rockies clubhouse. I would love to see him kind of take over that Chuck role in whatever way he can, whatever context he can provide to that. We've already seen Brenton Doyle kind of go from being the quiet, kind of awkward, I'm just very serious and focused on my craft type of player to being a little more outgoing and conversational. I think there's a lot of similarities for me between Brenton Doyle and Charlie Blackmon that I would love to break down, at a later date. But those are the guys that I think are going to be leading the charge for the Rockies. It's going to be important to have those veteran leaders. And we're so focused on the youth movement here, rightfully so, by the way, for the Rockies, that we do want to acknowledge that there does need to be some good leaders in the clubhouse that are veterans that can help these young guys, work through the ropes and get to where they want to be in this organization. So, yeah, going to be interesting to see how that progresses. But let's take a quick break here and give a shout out to our friends over at ZBiotic, because ZBiotic, they're a really unique product, and they've got what's called this ZBiotics pre-alcohol, which basically makes it easier for you to bounce back after a night of drinking. And for someone like me, getting a little bit older, I'm not in my college days, although I feel like I am at times. It's hard to kind of get back on the horse the next day when you've spent some time drinking with friends the night before. And I even realized this the other day when I was up at Western, in Gunnison, 7,700 feet elevation. I was with some old college buddies and I had a couple good drinks, out with friends that night. And even just a couple drinks, waking up the next morning at elevation when you forget that 7,000, almost 8,000 feet elevation, one or two beers goes straight to your head a lot quicker than it does when you're at sea level, like I grew up. And so being able to have some ZBiotics pre-alcohol in your system before you start drinking, even just a couple drinks, just helps you to avoid feeling as groggy the next morning. You can kind of jump back on the horse a little bit quicker that next day. And basically what happens, through ZBiotics pre-alcohol is it releases an enzyme to tackle that toxic byproduct that gets released by drinking and by all the alcohol that kind of gets mixed into your system. So remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly. You'll feel even better the next day as long as you get that Z-Biotics pre-alcohol in the night before. Stock up on pre-alcohol now. Head over to zbiotics.com/DNVR Rockies to get 15% off your first order. They're backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you are unsatisfied for any reason, they'll give you your money back. No questions asked. Remember that zbiotics.com/DNVR Rockies to get 15% off your first order. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring our episode and for sponsoring our good times. Well, speaking of good times, we always got to share some love with our friends over at Shady Rays. I've got the Shady Rays rocking here on the show today. And one of the main reasons I love Shady Rays is because they're so durable. They're so effective. They're so beautiful as well. I can go through a bunch of different adjectives. Shady Rays are truly the best because they look good, they feel good, and they work well. And I'm one of those type of people that love investing in good sunglasses because I wear sunglasses every damn day. Like, sunglasses are my go-to. I wear them in the car. I wear them when I take my dogs on a walk. I wear them when I wake up in the morning. I wear sunglasses all the time. Maybe not as much as Big Drive Spence, who wears them for his entire show, but I do wear sunglasses a lot, and I've got to always have my Shady Rays with me. And we've got some great deals at DNVR exclusively for our DNVR listeners. Shady Rays is giving their best deals of the season. Head to shadyrays.com using code DNVR for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. They look good. They feel good. They are good. They are Shady Rays. And we love our friends over at Shady Rays. All right, let's do our around Major League Baseball segment here because there was some crazy stuff going on in baseball last night. Again, I said it yesterday. It is the best time of year for baseball. I like this time of year better than I even like October because you've got teams that are just still trying to hold on, still trying to get, whether it be a division clinching win or a wild card clinching win. You're hoping for other teams to lose. Like, there's so many things to talk about. And one of the craziest things that happened last night was the Padres clinched a playoff game, a playoff berth, a playoff appearance against the Dodgers via the triple play. Something you never see in baseball. You see more perfect games, more no-hitters than you see triple plays throughout a year. And the Padres clinched a game against the Dodgers, clinched a postseason game against the Dodgers by winning it on a triple play. And also, I should say, it was a 4-2 game at the time. Shohei Ohtani was coming up to bat in just 2 batters, and you never know what's going to happen when Shohei Ohtani comes up to hit. So the fact that the Padres clinched a postseason appearance via the triple play against the Dodgers, what is happening? The NL West is just chaos, and it always has been. It always will be. I hate that we're stuck in the NL West. Rockies fans, can we get the hell out of the NL West and go somewhere else where it's less chaotic? It's bad for my health. But Padres fans, they gave you a reason to cheer for. Also, can I say that the Rockies fans have spent an entire year really just pissing off Padres fans. The Rockies lost that game the other day to the Dodgers via the breakdown 9th inning, back-to-back home runs to Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani to lose the game. It was an incredible Dodgers game, whatever. Yeah, cool, good for you, Dodgers. But the silver lining to that was the fact that the Rockies have continued their season of just demoralizing the Padres. We've won 3 series against the Padres this season, one of the best teams in baseball. And we stopped them from being able to clinch the postseason just a few days ago against the Dodgers. So that was pretty cool. A little silver lining to that one. Diamondbacks. What the hell is going on over at PHNX? The Diamondbacks lost to the Giants 11-0. They gave up 5 home runs in 5 innings. Diamondbacks have still not officially clinched the wild card spot yet, although they probably still will. But that was another crazy game. The Oakland Athletics wrapping up their final series at the Oakland Coliseum, and it is bedlam at the Coliseum. I don't know if you guys saw this, but fans are ripping up the seats. There was notifications going out to the players and coaching staff telling them to leave the stadium immediately after the games are done. Don't stay there. Don't take pictures. Don't grab dirt. Don't do any of that. Just get the hell out of there because they're worried about fans rushing the field after that last game. John Fisher, the absolutely beloved owner of the A's, put out a statement and kind of just like explaining his side of the story of this whole ownership debacle and then moving to Las Vegas. And can I say that was probably the most ill-advised statement that's ever been released in MLB history. The amount of hate that he got for that, rightfully so, was incredible. It was incredible. I even reposted some stuff on the @CJJ Saez Twitter. John Fisher, what are you doing, dude? Like, just ride off into the sunset in your own little bubble. Everyone hates you. Don't try to make things better. Don't try to like act like it's not my fault. Dude, just keep your mouth shut. It was wild.
You'll have to ask AJ if he thinks the Coyotes owner or the A's owner is worse.
That is a good debate. That'd be a good debate.
TDSP, but not for us.
That is a great debate because I mean it's tough to beat the ineptitude of this Oakland A's ownership. And one of the best kind of follow-ups to because in the letter John Fisher was saying things like, it wasn't my fault. We tried to get a deal done with the stadium and the city wouldn't allow it and blah, blah, blah. And one of the best responses that I heard was, well, then sell the team. Like, if you can't get it done, then give it to someone who will.
Yeah.
You don't need, you're not required to have this team and not be able to make positive steps forward. Then get the hell out of there. If you care about the fans and you care about the team, then let it go. Give it to someone who can get the job done or get it off the burden of your shoulders. So I feel bad for A's fans. Thoughts and prayers out to all the A's fans out there. Hopefully they stay safe. We had some pretty good memories of the Coliseum over the years. They are finishing up their final historic series at the Oakland Coliseum, but a lot of chaos happening around baseball right now. Chaos in the game yesterday, too. Rockies lost to the Cardinals. Kind of a heartbreaker in the sense that, there were some good moments for the Rockies. Ryan Feltner started off pretty well. Charlie Blackmon had a double and a triple. He also was hit by a pitch. Feltner left the game due to a bicep soreness, I believe, if that's what I'm remembering correctly. It wasn't a huge concern for Bud Black. He did say that Feltner is going to be expected to start on Sunday for their final game of the season against the Dodgers. But, I'm not too into the whole, let's break down the games type of thing at this point in the season. Unless something crazy happens or a young player comes in, if we get, I don't know, a 4-inning, relief appearance from Luis Peralta or something like that, or Seth Halverson comes in and goes 9 pitches, 100 mile an hour and strikes out 3 guys in a row. Sure, I'll talk about those things, but it's just that time of the year where I'm like, all right, this is going to become an MLB podcast here in about a week. And that's just where it's at. Baseball is going into the postseason. It's incredible. Even if you're not, a fan of these teams that are in the postseason, it's still an incredible time to be a baseball fan. The Rockies have given us some good moments throughout the year. They've given us a lot to talk about. I'm just not going to be breaking down a lot of the game stuff over the next few days. You can follow us on Twitter. We will have some game stuff going on over there. But for the most part, we're rolling into the postseason. It's postseason baseball, baby. It's a good time to be a baseball fan. This is the best time of the year. We wish the Rockies were in it, but they're not. So we're going to be talking about the teams that are in the postseason, and hopefully in the next couple of years, the Rockies will be right there with them. But that's going to do it for us on the show. Shout out to our amazing producer, Tiff. I am Christian Saez. You guys can catch me and Harrison Wind on TDSP, the Denver Sports Podcast, coming up here in about 15 minutes. That's on the Denver Sports Podcast in about 15 minutes. I'm also going to be jumping back on the DNVR Rockies show here on Friday at 10 a.m., and we'll have plenty to talk about there on Friday. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can follow us at DNVR_Rockies. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Drop us a like. We always appreciate that. And thanks, as always, for showing up for us. This has been the DNVR Rockies Podcast, brought to you by Bet365. See you guys on Friday.
We all silly like the mayor.